I never thought I'd be the kind of person to talk about something like this. But there are moments in life that change you so completely, so deeply, that staying silent feels almost dishonest. I grew up in a tough home. Strict rules, heavy discipline, the kind of place where weakness was never an option. My father believed in shaping me with the same rigidity the military had once shaped him. I learned early how to hide pain, how to channel anger, how to build walls around my heart. For years, that became my identity. The tough one, the fighter, the guy who never let anyone see his cracks. I looked for fights, in school, in bars, anywhere I could unleash the storm bottled up inside me. And yet, underneath all that noise, something in me knew it wasn't who I really was. Still, it was easier to play the role than to admit I didn't know who I was supposed to be. By my 20s, I discovered a new obsession: bodybuilding. The more my muscles grew, the more attention I got. And I craved it. The gym became my temple, the iron my altar. I fed on protein powders, creatine, pre-workouts, anything that promised faster gains. There was this supplement everyone wanted at the time, something that could cut your recovery in half. Stores ran out of it everywhere, so like impatient kids, we went searching online for alternatives. We found a supplier overseas, and without a second thought, we ordered it. When the bottle arrived, I remember the excitement, almost like holding a secret key to a shortcut nobody else had. Saturday morning, we decided to try it out. What we didn't know, what would change everything, was that this version wasn't the diluted 5% mix we were used to. No, this was pure, 100%, like swallowing 20 doses in one. Almost instantly, I felt it. My head started spinning, my stomach knotted. I thought maybe food would help, so my buddy and I drove toward a Dairy Queen. But by then, he was barely conscious behind the wheel. I shook him awake, desperate, and when we parked, I stumbled straight into the restroom, hoping the sickness would pass. Instead, my body began to shut down. A heavy sleepiness took over, like being dragged underwater by invisible hands. I collapsed on the bathroom floor. My lungs fought, my heart slowed. My last memory in that body was the ceiling tilting, spinning before everything went black. But death didn't feel like I imagined. There was no terror. Instead, it was as if I had fallen into cool, dark water. Silent, calm, almost comforting. For the first time in my life, I wasn't fighting anything. I was simply still. And then, vision returned. But it wasn't my eyes that were seeing. I was above the scene, floating near the ceiling, looking down at a body on the floor. My body. At first, I didn't recognize it, because I was up here, clear, conscious, more alive than ever. Watching the scene unfold felt almost theatrical, as if the universe had decided to show me a movie. And I was both the audience and the subject of the film. I saw the door being rattled by a customer trying to get in. I saw the manager being called. I watched them discover me, watched their panic, their calls to 911. Time didn't feel linear. It stretched, compressed. I could hear people's thoughts not as whispers in my head, but as if they were spoken aloud. The EMTs arrived, and I knew, without anyone telling me, that one of them was brand new, still carrying the self-doubt of his first week on the job. They tried reviving me. Chest compressions, oxygen, the rituals of resuscitation. Nothing worked. They declared me dead. I watched them zip me into a bright yellow body bag, watched as they strapped me onto a stretcher and loaded me into the ambulance. And still, I felt no fear, just peace. An overwhelming peace, as if I was finally untethered from the heaviness of a life I didn't know how to carry. But as the ambulance pulled away, I felt something shift. That rookie medic, he couldn't accept it. I heard his thoughts, raw and painful. If I'd been in charge, I wouldn't have given up so quickly. I should have tried harder. And then, out of nowhere, I saw it. A light beginning to glow from inside his chest, as if his very soul was igniting. A voice thundered, not out loud, but so loud I could feel it vibrate through me. This one's not dead. The moment that voice declared I wasn't dead, everything changed. That young medic tore open the body bag, his hands trembling, defying the silence of his colleagues. He searched for a pulse and found nothing. Yet something urged him forward. He pressed oxygen into my lungs, hooked up the defibrillator, and sent a jolt through my chest. The first shock, nothing. The second, suddenly a single heartbeat flickered on the monitor. In that instant, the other medics froze. The rookie's stubborn hope had cracked reality open. I felt it too, like an electric spark tearing me back towards something I wasn't sure I wanted anymore. They rushed me into the hospital, machines screaming, doctors working feverishly. From above, I still watched, detached, as if the body below wasn't mine but some character in a story I was observing. Yet the illusion shattered when they strapped the body down. The moment they fastened the belt across the left arm, I felt it, on me. The pressure, the sensation. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just a movie. This was my death, my body, my life. A cold wave of fear surged through me. How had I not known? How could I be so blind to what I was really seeing? And then came the darkness. Like a flood of shadows, I began reliving every mistake, every selfish act, every careless word I had ever spoken. Not from my perspective alone, but through the eyes of the people I had hurt. Their pain coursed through me as if it were my own. Time meant nothing. It was both endless and fleeting. I felt myself shrinking under the weight of it, drowning in my own failures. The fear was suffocating, dragging me down, dimming the light that had surrounded me. Just as I thought I might disappear into that darkness forever, something shifted. A warmth, subtle at first, touched my back, like sunlight breaking through a storm. Slowly it spread, covering me, lifting me. I turned toward it, desperate to know its source. As I turned, images filled my vision. Moments of kindness I had forgotten. Smiles I had given freely. Times I had unknowingly lifted others when I thought I was invisible. I realized I had done far more good than I ever believed, and with each memory came waves of love, peace, and an unexplainable coolness, like being wrapped in light and comfort all at once. Then, I saw him, a man, standing in radiant presence, emanating love that pierced me to my core. Instantly I thought, this must be God. Yet before I could even voice the thought, his answer came, not with words but directly into my mind. No, son, I'm not God, I'm your guide. His voice was gentle but carried a weight that made me tremble. I asked almost instinctively, are you Jesus then? Raised in a Christian home, it was the only framework I had for what was happening. Again, his response came, steady and kind. No, I'm not Jesus either. I'm simply your guide. My name is Drake, and I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go. He extended his hand as if offering me a choice. Return to my body or follow him. I looked back at the hospital room, my body convulsing, strapped down, surrounded by chaos and pain. There was no hesitation. I didn't want to go back there. I wanted to follow the warmth, the love, wherever it came from. I told him so, with every fiber of my being. He nodded, his smile like a father's pride, and said, then I'll take you home. Home. The word resonated deep in me as if he wasn't talking about a place I'd never been, but one I had always known, one I had simply forgotten. As we began to move together, I felt the weight of earthly life slipping away, like peeling off layer after layer of clothing I never realized I was wearing. And with each layer gone, I felt lighter, freer, closer to something beyond words. As Drake guided me away, I felt like we were moving not through space, but through dimensions stacked one upon another. It wasn't walking or flying. It was more like being pulled forward by light itself. The further we went, the more I sensed that love wasn't just an emotion here. It was energy, substance, the very foundation of existence. And yet before I could truly step into it, Drake stopped me. He looked at me with eyes that seemed to hold centuries of understanding. Before love, he said without words, you must first learn authenticity. I didn't know what he meant. Hadn't I already been myself all these years? But he showed me masks. Masks I didn't even know I was wearing. The tough guy for my father. the fighter for strangers, the performer in the gym. Each role was real, yet none of them were me. To grow, I had to strip them away. I had to see the thread that connected them all, the true core I had buried beneath anger, fear, and pride. As each mask dissolved, I felt raw, exposed, almost naked. But under that rawness, I felt something purer than I'd ever known, my authentic self. Only then, Drake said, could love truly take root. Without authenticity, love is just a costume, not a living truth. With that realization, we moved again. I thought, now we'll focus on love. Drake smiled as if he had been waiting for me to say it. Yes, he replied. But first, you must understand why you came to Earth. His words shook me. All my life, I had assumed Earth was a place of judgment, a courtroom where we were tested, weighed, and either rewarded or condemned. But Drake's voice carried another truth. Earth is a school. It has always been only a school. The word stunned me. A school? Not a battlefield? Not a trial? He explained that Earth was never meant for punishment. It was designed as a classroom, a place to practice creation, to learn how to shape reality with our thoughts and our love. I realized how much of my life had been built on fear of failing, of being judged, when all along I was just a student, stumbling through lessons. Drake showed me that thoughts are not harmless. They are the seeds of creation itself. Positive thoughts send ripples of light into the universe, drawing back blessings. Negative ones send darkness, which returns in kind. What you think, you build. What you build, you live. I felt the truth of it in my very being, as if the fabric of existence itself echoed those words back to me. He then taught me about something I now call the hour of power. The first 30 minutes after waking, and the last 30 before sleep. Whatever we feed ourselves in those sacred windows, whether it's fear, anger, or love, becomes the foundation of our spirit. Be careful what you worship, he said. Because worship is simply the act of giving your attention. If we fill those moments with negativity, we are bowing to it. If we fill them with love, we rise. As I absorbed each lesson, I felt us moving faster, climbing higher. It wasn't speed as we know it, but momentum of the soul, like shedding gravity, one layer at a time. I could sense us breaking through barriers, thin veils between dimensions. Each one clung for a moment, then gave way, until the air grew brighter, lighter, almost too pure for words. Then, ahead of us, I saw it. At first it looked like a massive sun, a radiance 1,000 times greater than anything I'd ever imagined. But as we neared, I realized it wasn't a burning star. It was alive. Around it hovered countless spheres, translucent orbs glowing with light. They shimmered like pearls suspended in eternity, forming what I understood instantly as the true pearly gates. Curious, I asked Drake what they were. Without hesitation, my consciousness slipped into one. Inside, I saw a man from another era, late 1800s perhaps, tormented by anger and betrayal. He relived his pain in an endless loop, blind to the truth that he was no longer bound by it. Then, in a single breath, realization dawned on him. Light rushed in, and messengers, angels unlike any I had ever seen, embraced him, lifting him into the radiant presence beyond. Crossing beyond those orbs felt like stepping through the last doorway between pain and wholeness. Drake explained that they weren't barriers meant to keep anyone out, but cleansing gates. Before entering the highest realms of love, souls had to shed the weight of anger, bitterness, and victimhood. Only then could we stand in harmony with the purest light. Watching that man transform showed me that even the deepest wounds could be healed by love. As we moved forward, the brilliance grew softer, not harsher. The light wasn't blinding. It was inviting, like a sunrise that wrapped itself around you instead of burning your eyes. I began to see landscapes forming, rolling fields of emerald grass, crystal waters glistening like liquid diamonds, orchards heavy with fruit that seemed to hum with life. In the distance, mountains rose, and beyond them, a radiant city shimmered like it was woven out of light itself. We touched down near a meadow, and though I didn't have a physical body, I felt the grass beneath me. It wasn't just sensation, it was communion. The blades of grass carried consciousness, meeting me with love, music, even taste. Everything here was alive, not just existing, but expressing. Light poured not from above, but from within every tree, every flower, every ripple of water, and in all of it I felt the unmistakable presence of the Creator. The water drew me next. Drake guided me to a pond so pure it glowed from within. I stepped in, and though I had no wounds on this form, I felt healing flow through me. Scars I carried for years, anger from childhood, the pain of growing up in a harsh home, the brokenness I had poured into fights and muscle, melted away. It wasn't physical healing, it was soul healing, the kind I never knew I needed. When I rose from the water, I felt different, lighter, whole, unburdened in a way I could never have imagined on earth. Drake embraced me, and it wasn't like any hug I'd known before. On earth, hugs are gestures. Here, they were unifications of energy. When he held me, our beings intertwined and the strength multiplied, his love, my essence, together becoming something far greater. I realized that unity was a universal law. Together, we are exponentially more. Then from beyond, I heard something unexpected. A voice, faint but powerful, calling my name. It wasn't Drake, and it wasn't from this realm. It was my brother. I could feel his prayer pouring into me, full of desperation and love. Not just his love for me, but his love for our mother, who would be devastated to lose me. That love struck me harder than any light had. It tethered me, pulling me back toward the body I thought I'd left forever. It felt unfair. Heaven was home. I knew it with certainty now. But love has its own gravity, stronger than anything else in existence. Against my will, I felt myself being pulled, dragged back across the veil. In an instant, the meadow, the pond, the glowing city, all of it vanished. I opened my eyes in a hospital bed, gasping, suffocating in tubes and wires and alarms screaming all around me. The contrast was unbearable. Heaven had been freedom, wholeness, light. Earth felt claustrophobic, heavy, broken. I tore at the cords, ripping out tubes, pulling sensors from my skin, desperate to breathe without machines binding me. Nurses rushed in, horrified to see the man who had been brain dead for days now standing, confused, half-naked, trembling. Their fear mirrored mine. I wanted to run back to escape this second death of being ripped from heaven. That was the darkest season of my life. Dying was easy. Coming back was excruciating. I longed for heaven so desperately that suicide whispered to me as a tempting release. But I knew, deep inside, that to take my own life would disrupt the very lessons I was meant to learn. So instead, I endured. I stumbled through days that felt heavier than chains, haunted by memories of light I could no longer touch. In time, I sought help. A doctor told me my visions were delusions, side effects of a damaged brain. He scribbled prescriptions for antipsychotics, assuring me they'd quiet the noise. As he wrote, though, I saw her, an elderly woman, spirit radiant, standing beside me. She urged me to deliver a message to him. I resisted, terrified of sounding insane. But her insistence was undeniable. With trembling voice, I told him what she said. The doctor's reaction was explosive. He slammed his pen down, eyes flashing, and shouted for me to leave his office. I walked out shaken, embarrassed, convinced I'd only confirmed his suspicion that I was broken. But minutes later, my phone rang. It was him. His voice cracked with emotion as he admitted that what I had told him was a memory he had buried, something that had shaped his life but he had completely forgotten. My words had unlocked it. That was the moment I realized my experience wasn't madness, it was truth. I couldn't deny it anymore. Even if I wanted to write it off as oxygen deprivation or hallucination, there was no escaping the fact that I had spoken something real, something impossible for me to know on my own. Slowly, I began to accept that what I had lived wasn't a dream, but a gift, a calling to live differently. I clung to the message my guides had whispered over and over. It will be hard, but it will be worth it. That phrase carried me through the darkest days, until eventually, light began to return in a new form. It came through love I found in the eyes of the woman who would become my wife. When I first met her, I saw heaven reflected in her gaze. For the first time since my return, I felt God's love shining through a human soul. Not long before our wedding, we visited a small Wyoming town and sat through a presentation about its early settlers. As images flickered on the screen, my wife suddenly grabbed my hand. "That's your guide," she whispered. My eyes snapped to the photo. My breath caught in my throat. It was him, Drake, the same face, the same presence. Only here, his name was listed as Charles. We rushed to my grandmother's house afterward, and when I asked her about Charles Kaiser, she smiled knowingly. "Oh, you mean Great-Grandpa Drake," she said. Tears welled in my eyes. The guide who had walked me through death, who had taught me eternal truths, was not just a stranger from beyond. He was family, flesh and blood, a bridge between my earthly roots and the heavenly home I had visited. The confirmation shook me to my core. From that day forward, doubt no longer haunted me. I knew my story was real, and I knew why I had been sent back. Earth was not a courtroom. It was not a punishment. It was a school, a place to learn, to create, to practice shaping our reality with thoughts and with love. Every interaction, every word, every choice was not about judgment, but about growth, about learning how to love more deeply. And the greatest truth was this: love is creation itself. Love is the energy that moves the universe, the glue that binds everything together. When we love, we are not just being kind, we are creating. We are building worlds inside ourselves and in others. But when we withhold love, when we choose fear or anger, we become consumers of energy instead of producers. That choice defines the world we experience. Heaven taught me that if you are lacking something, joy, peace, connection, the answer is never to grasp for it selfishly. The answer is to give it away. Pour joy into others, and joy will return. Offer love, and love will multiply. This is not philosophy. It is law, etched into the very structure of reality. The more I live it, the more I see its truth reflected back to me. Life since has not been easy. There are still struggles, still days when the weight of this world presses hard against me. But now I see those struggles differently. They are lessons, the hammer and fire that shape the blade. The sword may resist, may curse the forge, but when it is complete, it gleams with beauty and purpose. I am that sword. We all are. And earth is the forge where we are tempered into who we were always meant to be. So now, I live with this truth. The holiest temple in the universe is not built of stone or gold. It is the space between our thoughts, the sanctuary of the mind and heart. What we choose to place there, fear or faith, anger or love, unlocks either a prison or the very keys to creation. And if there is one lesson my near-death experience carved into me forever, it is this: we were never meant to fear life or fear death. We were meant to love, always, in everything. What we choose to place there, fear or faith, anger